There it is. Feels so official with the light. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Planning Commission meeting for the City of Farmington for Monday, July 13th, 2026. Can we have a roll call, please?
Comitso.
Here.
Westendorf.
Here.
Majoris, not here. Crutcher.
Here.
And Perot.
Here.
The others are absent.
All right. Thank you very much. That'd be Manti is absent and Gray is absent. All right. Item number 2, approval of the items on the consent agenda. Do we have any comments, questions, concerns about the consent agenda from our May 28th? We were advised that we're going to be getting those minutes a little bit, probably a little next meeting. There's one in every crowd, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
You turn that on.
These kids and their technology these days. Now everybody's scrambling to check their phones so they don't do it too. So, okay, so for the consent agenda, we can table that, and that's on to next month. We'll get those minutes and then we can review and
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
There's nothing on the consent
you very
agenda
much.
this evening.
tonight's agenda. Do we have any comments, questions, concerns from commissioners on tonight's regular agenda as presented in the staff packet?
Move to approve the regular agenda for tonight's meeting.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Number 4, unfinished business, seeing that we have none. Item number 5, new business, public hearing to amend the following sections in the zoning ordinance. We have 3 different revisions for tonight. And Kristen, if you could give us a summary or review.
Sure. Hello, Commissioners. The ordinance amendments before the commission this evening are the result of the parking study and the best practice analysis that OHM did for the downtown, something you guys have been talking about for several months. The best practices analysis was presented to the parking committee and to the DDA, and they both recommended approval. A summary of the recommended amendments are as follows. So number 1 is for general office uses to decrease the required parking from 1 space per 250 square feet to 1 space per 300 square feet. Second recommendation was for multiple family residential uses to decrease the requirement from 2 spaces per dwelling unit to 1 space for an efficiency or 1 bedroom. And then for 1.5 spaces for 2 bedrooms or more. And then the third change was to go from using the term gross floor area to usable floor area and include a definition of usable floor area. So that involves amending section 35-105, Central Business District Residential Design Standards, section 36-172, off-street parking requirements by use, and section 35-252, definitions. And before, we can go over the amendments if you want, but before I do, I was going to introduce Julia Upfeld. She's a planner with OHM. She came to just meet the commission tonight. She'll be helping some, so we make sure we have coverage for the city. And Julia has an eagle eye, and she did catch a minor discrepancy in the ordinance as presented. The definition references sanitary facilities, and inside of the ordinance amendment on page 7, it gives a description of leasable or usable area, but it does not include the reference to the sanitary facilities. So I would just make a minor amendment if you choose to send it to council to make the definition completely in line with the description on page 7. Very minor, just a couple words. Does anyone have any questions?
Page 7 of the package or page 7 of the ordinance?
Page 7 of the PDF. I think it's subsection, I think it was E, subsection E. Let's see.
Page 7 starts with I.
You know what? We'll throw you right in the mix here, Julia. You caught it.
Sorry.
You're correct.
Right after the word sanitary facilities and the definition on page 7, it does not say shall be excluded from this computation of usable floor area, and then shall da-da-da. And so that is in the definition on page 12, but it's not in the one on page 7.
Okay, guess my numbers aren't lining up with your numbers.
So it's, if you have a PDF in front of you, if you don't, and you're looking, are you looking at a paper packet?
I'm looking at the PDF.
You're looking at the PDF, okay.
So page 7, what's the number at the bottom of page 7?
3.
Okay.
So that is slightly different from page 8, but they're supposed to be the same.
Okay.
So essentially saying that the bathrooms aren't included in the calculation. We need to correct that.
Okay, I see what you're looking at. You're looking at 35-172, section E, number 2. And there's a large strike there, and there rewrites that, and it talks about the sanitary facilities. Okay. I see what you're saying now. Thank you. Are we able to ask questions now, or is that jumping ahead to the discussion later?
I would, I'm sorry,
I don't know.
I would wait until the discussion part.
Okay,
And open up the public hearing.
that's why I was curious. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else to call out from just the overview of, as was presented in the
That's a
staff?
summary, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion to open public hearing?
Move to open public hearing regarding proposed amendments to Chapter 35, Article 7, Section 35-105, Article 14, Section 36-172, and Article 21, Section 35-252.
Support.
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. All right, public hearing is now open for anyone that'd like to speak concerning the amendments that we just reviewed. If you could, just name, and obviously speak into the microphone, but name and address.
Sure. My name is Doug Peterson. I live at 33209 Oakland Avenue, and for point of reference, if I look out my back door, I'm looking at Los Tres Amigos. So I would preface my comments by saying I've appreciated that over the past 20 years or so, we really haven't had a lot of conflict around parking in the broader downtown area, a bit more specifically CBD versus the residential area, you know, with the traffic calming and the creation of spaces and the marking of spaces, along with parking enforcement, there really hasn't been a lot of problem. Now, with the advent of trying to develop downtown with more residential and denser residential, there's certainly the potential for conflict reemerging around parking. So my concern is less around the number changes, but really more around the, which exists already, the ability to say, oh, we can take a half a space off for the availability of on-street parking. And that's where really my concern comes in with proposals that, and review of proposals that sort of hand wave and double dip, on available street parking. Because that would include things like Oakland Avenue or Farmington where residents, live. And, as sort of an example, if the Cowley proposal was approved, well, basically, since those people wouldn't be able to park in the parking enforced spots, it'd be permanently giving 4 spaces along Farmington or Oakland for those units. That's the kind of, thing I'm concerned about. I think any parking problem that comes up from these developments is really going to be permanent. It's going to need some more drastic separate solution because you can't tell them to take away the housing. So, those issues will always exist. And I think there's some practical concerns that probably don't come up in these, assessments of, well, can we take it down? And that's that, in a 1-bedroom apartment, sometimes there's 2 people. And certainly they have visitors. Sometimes they're overnight visitors. And people are going to want to park close to where they live, regardless of what spaces you counted, as available on-street parking for them. You know, so those kind of concerns, I think, need to be brought up, you know, in the context of future, you know, planning review, and not create problems by double dipping. And, oh, by the way, you know, with respect to garages, full-size vehicles don't fit in those garages like over at the towns, you know. And what that means, and I've already heard from people who live over there, they have to park someplace else if they have a full-size vehicle. You can maybe get them in that space, but good luck trying to get out inside that garage. Unless you're thin and flexible, it isn't happening out of a full-size vehicle, and some full-size vehicles won't fit in there. So, you know, it's maybe a mild argument against decreasing the requirements, but more of a concern over the potential for creating future parking issues downtown that I'd really rather not get back to.
Thank you. All right, with anyone else for public hearing? Going once? All right.
Donald Muncher, 33309 Oakland Avenue. Look at my back door. You see the patisserie right there. This is directly related to what Doug said, and I'm really repeating a lot of what he said, but I would like an answer. The 1.5. And I think he's right. You're going to wind up with one-bedroom apartments with two people. The answer, where are those people going to go? You say on-street parking, you know, but where? I can see all kinds of confusion back there with the residents and people who are shopping. That people who are shopping, oh, here are all these spaces, you know, I'm sure it's going to be posted, you know, but I don't know how much effect that is going to have, is where are these extra cars going to go? There is no more room between Cowley's and Eni Sunquist on Oakland for those cars to go. Even when there's no funeral. And when there's a funeral, heaven help us. Even when there's no funeral, except for Mondays when they're closed, when the cars start right at the corner of Farmington and Oakland. The first car is probably violating some other ordinance that is too close to the corner, and it goes minimum all the way by Eni Sunquist parking lot, the first house, the second house, which is mine, and part of the third house. And that's with no funeral. That's with nothing. That's employees, because of the 3-hour limit, cannot park anywhere else. They're Cowley's employees. They're Legato's employees, 99% of them. And so my question to the commission is, when you have this overflow from these apartments, where are they going to go? Certainly not on Oakland.
Thank you. All right, with any other residents or attendees that would like to comment on tonight? All right, going once, going twice. Do we have a motion to close public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing?
Support?
Motion made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Part B, discussion and proposed ordinance amendments. Do we have any comments from commissioners? I'll open it up to commissioners first. Concerning any of the verbiage or any of the updates for the ordinances. And then also any comments or questions for staff.
I do have a question. Could you just explain the difference between gross leasable and usable floor? I noticed in all of the amendments, they were crossed out and changed to usable. What does usable floor mean? In comparison to gross leasable?
So gross usable is really being more specific about what areas in a building are actually usable. So gross leasable would be a larger square footage. By the definition that we propose, where we're removing portions of the building that no one's going to occupy or live there, you're getting a better idea of actually how much parking the building would require. So, like for example, if you had a giant warehouse, it might have a lot of square footage, but you want to look at what is actually usable, how many employees or people would actually be there. So we're not coming up with a calculation that is wildly more than what would actually be needed for the facility. Does that make sense?
It does, but when a facility then says it will have 2 occupants, or it's a 2-bedroom, will have 2 occupants, that doesn't really change whether it's usable or gross, right?
Not for residential.
Okay.
The changing that definition is more for
For the
commercial
industrial,
space.
okay.
So we're not including a custodial closet or, common area that's not used or occupied.
Storage rooms and.
Yeah, bathrooms, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right now, we're doing this in kind of context of the parking, but is there anything else written in the ordinance that, sure, that's a very wide open question. What other significant items in the ordinance are tied to that usable versus leasable area?
I went through the ordinance in doing this ordinance amendment, and I think what's presented before you this evening covers what is considered the usable floor area and how we would use that terminology. Most of the discussion of this is in your CBD section of your ordinance and in the parking chapter. So, I went through it, another person at my firm went through it. I think we've covered everything, and I think it's probably something that we're going to continue to look at now that your master plan's completed, and, we've talked about other updates that we want to make to the ordinance. But I mean, unless I've overlooked something, are you seeing somewhere?
The only other thing that comes to mind is maybe some like floor area ratios or anything like that that might be in there that I haven't
Yeah, that's a
dug
good point.
through it to check to see if anything else is affected and whether it's a problem.
Yeah, I could go back and look, but went through everything that I thought pertained to it, and I think we caught it, but I can go back and look at Florida area ratios, make sure it doesn't have a reference to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, sorry,
By all means.
thank you. So for the single-family and 2-family dwellings, it still remains as 2 spaces per dwelling unit, correct? That doesn't change.
No, it does. It did change. It goes to 1.5.
In the
No,
CBD
it's for-
district.
Sorry?
Sorry, in the CBD district,
Okay.
it is reduced. So if you look, and I know we're all looking at different documents, but in the draft ordinance that we provided to you, there's a table, sorry, Brian, with numerical parking requirements. And it does show the change there for the CBD.
The red line here, that's an addition. So just in the CBD district, it would change. So it would be 2 spaces for dwelling unit. if it was-
For multiple family dwellings. But
you
for
had-
single-family and 2-family dwellings, it hasn't changed,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Right now, I think their idea is if you've got like an apartment complex.
Or mixed use, yeah.
And this also pertains to the central business district specifically. So it's an attempt to reduce one of the obstacles to feasibility for redevelopment. So,
I've seen some communities that are getting rid of parking requirements in their ordinance completely, and they just leave it up to the developer to do their research and know what they need for their own community. And if you don't put appropriate parking, guess what? Your space isn't gonna get leased.
Baby steps.
That might be a bit of a jump.
I think that's a good point. Based on the site plan that you looked at your last meeting, ultimately, we had a developer interested in moving in condos, and where the conversation led was, we probably need to obtain our own private parking that's going to be permitted, because we won't be able to sell condos without parking attached to it. And I think that's kind of where they determined they needed to be, that they couldn't rely on on-street parking for condo units.
I think looking at what's been proposed here, there's one development that was looking at that can't do a development because they can't do parking on the site. And another developer's presented something here, which we've gone through. They were able to meet the ordinance and provide parking as required, but it winds up being a lot of parking on the site for just that tenant. So it constrained the development, probably not for the best for our community, but it works for the developer. But he met the parking requirements. Had this ordinance been in place, he could have reduced the amount of parking, but he also probably would not have least been able to sell the units as condos because he wouldn't have had the parking for them.
Or he can keep the same amount of parking, and some of it could be, fewer spaces could be identified as for the residents, and it could be more for the mixed use.
Well, I'd say probably for his particular pro forma to work, he needed to have, for his business model to work, he had to provide the parking. So if our ordinance required less, he would have just be providing more parking.
He would be
And
providing
that's
more than the ordinance
more than the
requires,
ordinance
because that's
requires.
what his-
Right. I think that's probably going to be the case in a lot of developments, because if they're going to do condos, they're going to have these things, so they're going to exceed our ordinance. But there's other developments where, as apartments, they may not need to have or choose not to have the parking, and having, or just the thing won't work financially by having to do the parking. And so
I've also been approached by couples who share a car, or a gentleman in particular who doesn't drive, who he wants a place downtown. That's,
it'll make it possible
That'll
for
make it
those
all
kind of
balanced.
options to be available for, somebody's not gonna have a car, and then somebody's gonna have 2 or 3 cars. And
So I have a question to kind of dovetail on one comment that Dan had earlier, is for each one of these revisions, there's a mention in the summary that was in the staff packet of essentially comparing us to other communities. And we've gone through this with a lot of different things over the years. Could you elaborate on who we benchmarked and why we feel they're comparable to Farmington as an apples-to-apples comparison?
Pull up the report. I know that Northville, Ferndale, I believe Clawson, were some of the communities, and I didn't author the study, so bear with me. Okay, good. But we're at the same basis there. So yeah, Berkeley, Clawson, Fenton, Ferndale, Northville, and Wyandotte. And I think, not having authored the study, I think they were looking at traditional downtowns that were trying to increase the density in terms of building, and use them as examples of communities that have been successful at it.
So OHM's opinion is that of the cities you mentioned, that it's a very close, similar comparison to the city of Farmington, even though it's not a perfect match, because obviously we're not exactly the same as Clawson or Fenton.
In terms of just being a traditional downtown where you're trying to increase your density, I mean, population and some other factors are obviously different, but the parking ordinances could be similar.
Okay, so probably, granted, most of us have probably been through these communities, but very similar mixed use, somewhat relatively in comparison. If there is residential in each one of these downtowns, pretty similar, because ours is obviously very light because we're a small community. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we clarify that. Just
I think Fenton especially, and I know that was one in there, I would use as a reference. If they're trying to increase the density, trying to get mixed use, and trying to have people live downtown. So.
another thing that's come up in discussions in the planning or parking advisory committee meeting is noting the number of spaces that are available in the downtown. And we currently do have maybe excess may not be the most precise word for it, but there's more parking available than is required by the businesses in this CBD. So
Yes, we're not already starting.
We're not underparked right now, so. And the most concerning thing, and the comments we've seen and I guess comments we've got from the public has been, it's not so much that there isn't enough parking, it's just not where people want to park. So you may have to walk a little bit to get to the parking space, and that's also been part of the discussion for these new developments and for the existing residential developments downtown, is they're not able to park, two things, the distance from the units, and then also having the space available close by. And most of the people who are working, it appears, they're able to utilize the timed parking we have because they go to work. And so they leave outside of the time when the timed parking would be a problem. And that's generally not an issue. And the distance to park is, yes, it may seem far by Farmington standards, but the actual distance is not far compared to other, communities and other places you'd park and have to walk to.
Okay. All right, any other comments, questions from commissioners?
Just another question. Has there been any consideration or discussion about reducing the number of hours for parking, like from 3 hours to 2 hours, or?
We moved it up from 2 hours to 3 hours in response to comments we were getting from the community.
Because 2 hours was not enough?
2 hours is not enough.
Okay.
If you want to see a movie and go shopping.
You want to eat, see a movie. Yeah.
Right.
Never coming back to Farmington again. I'm pretty sure they have, but.
And then the enforcement hours also, it's only from like 9 a.m. to 6 or 6 p.m. So outside of that time, you can park. So that's how it works for residents, people who live downtown and park in those time spaces. You can pull in at 6, 7 o'clock, and you got until 9 o'clock the next morning before you got to move.
Really like 5:01.
Yeah.
Or, gosh, even before that.
Any other comments or questions for OHM or staff from commissioners?
No, not for me.
All right, do we have a motion? And actually, just a point of clarification, and this might be for Beth, does there have to be a separate motion for each amendment? Or can there be one motion if the motion is?
In the consensus that you're moving to recommend approval of all 3 section changes, you can do it in one motion.
Okay.
If you think there's some question where you might need to separate because all of them are not gelling with you, then.
Yeah, or if you wanted to table one and,
Yeah.
okay,
It
just
seems
fine.
like everybody's on board with all 3. It's really generally one, concept that's being changed overall.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. I move to recommend approval of all of the proposed amendments to Chapter 35, Article 7, Section 35-105, Article 14, Section 36-172, and Article 21, Section 35-252, and to forward them to the City Council for their review and consideration.
I'll support.
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 6. Mr. Murphy, do we have any updates on current developments around?
So it looks like the Promenade Park is coming along really nicely. It's,
So we got some artwork hanging.
work is up. I don't know if that's all of it or not, but I know a good portion of the
Yeah.
wave is up and it looks great.
Yeah.
The sidewalks in, landscaping's in, it should be opened up soon. The Shell station up at, what is that?
It's pretty much Halsted and Grand River.
Halsted and Grand River, that's coming along nicely. They just have to finish up some landscaping on the east side, and they should be getting their permits, or their occupancy permit very soon. Next door, they're waiting to get their demo permit so they can start demoing on the inside of Focal Point. That'll be going into putting in commercial on the main floor and then apartments upstairs. I think that's about it. That's people have actually pulled permits for.
Is Focal Point, is there a tenant identified, or are they still prepping before they would put
They
that
think
on
they're
the market?
prepping, but they've purchased it now, so they do own it. The new people own it.
Yeah.
And they're looking to revamp the inside and get it
Okay.
ready for residential upstairs.
Yeah, and then commercial downstairs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Kristen, can you think of anything else?
Village Shoe-In went back to the design committee, and I know they were happy with the outcome, but I don't know any specifics. I haven't seen meeting minutes, but they had another meeting with them, and we're happy.
Yeah, I think everyone was happy when they came out of that. I think that the variance that they're seeking will be reduced a little bit. And that should go to the next zoning board of appeals meeting. It went to the last one, but there wasn't enough commissioners there and they wanted a full board.
Oh.
So we found out that 2 people had left that didn't tell us.
Lovely.
So the council will be interviewing on the 20th for a permanent seat and then 2 alternates.
Is there any, I think I saw that the former Salil Furniture sold. Is there any plan, anybody moving in there yet?
No,
I saw the for sale signs up and, noticed the place is completely empty now.
I think it's for sale again.
Oh, okay.
How about the Joe's Restaurant or Coney on Grand River?
All I know is that the sign is gone. They're not serving food any longer.
Yeah, it's all closed, no?
Which Coney?
Where
Former
Panera
Panera
used
used
to
to
be.
be.
Original
Panera.
Panera.
Yeah.
Then the 2, I think 2 or 3 restaurants now have gone in and haven't done very
Yeah.
well and closed up.
Yeah.
We approved them for a drive-through at one point. That's still good, right? If they,
Oh, yeah.
the next owner moves in.
believe
and
it's
wants
still
to spend the
viable,
money
yes, sir.
To do that, they can,
Well, it stays with.
It carries
stays
I
over.
with
believe
the
so.
site.
That's what my,
Yeah, with the
Okay.
with the property, yeah.
thank you.
It'd be nice to have a drive-through right there.
Alrighty. I believe that's the end of that. Do we have, we'll go ahead and make a motion to open public comment?
Motion to open public comment?
I'll support.
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comments now open. If anyone else has any comments, questions, concerns concerning pretty much anything, we're more than happy to hear it. All right, seeing none. We can just skip because there was no comment, right?
Yeah, we don't have.
Okay, yeah. Planning Commission comments. Do we have any general comments or questions for staff, OHM, each other? Trying to zing you.
Nope.
All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion made and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Good night, everybody.